Yeah, good morning, Coach.
It will.
Obviously, against East Carolina, the run fits the run defense was really good. What did you like out of some of those run fits in what seemed to be one of your best games of the season against the run?
It's funny, and it was. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I like the fact that you're looking at the positives. I mean, up until the last drive, I think they had 45 or 50 yards rushing, and it's not as if they weren't trying to run the ball. I mean, they threw the ball with great success. There's no question about that. But I thought, we changed up how we fit a couple of the zone plays. I thought certainly, I thought Chaney played his best game. He had a couple of tackles lost, and Jason Vaughn really stood out, I thought. And then, DJ and Dwayne Boyles played their usual, really good self. To stop the run against good teams, it requires, team defense. And we did a good job on that. And we got opportunities. We got them to third down numerous times, and we have to do a better job. That's 2 weeks in a row. We've really gotten teams to third down, and specifically 3rd and 6 or 7 or more. And whether it's Malik Cunningham scrambling through the defense or them completing passes, long, short, whatever passes, we didn't get off the field when we had opportunities. And then honestly, we had 5 or 6 stops on third down, and then they got it on 4th down. We just have to play 6 seconds at a time, 1 snap at a time, 6 seconds at a time. And it doesn't get any certainly easier this weekend.
You're nearly through halfway through this season. Just, what's one or maybe 2 areas that you can point to that you've seen consistent development from fall camp to now week 6?
Well, it's been hard to be consistent because of our injuries. I mean, I feel like every Sunday and Monday, first thing we're doing is, okay, who's up? I mean, if you'd have said Rashawn Yates was only going to have played till the second quarter against Howard, Antonio Greer's played, but very, very little. Daquan Evans has played very, very little. Gene T.J. Robinson, Mekhi LaPointe, and different guys like that, they've been in and out of the lineup and whatnot. So that's been challenging. That's been the most challenging aspect of things. Consistently. Well, I mean, it's weird, and maybe it's hard to see unless you're just studying the film all the time. I mean, football does come down to a handful of plays, and what ends up happening is the 2 biggest measures of success in a game to me are turnovers or takeaways and explosive plays. And we have 8 turnovers after 5 games. We had 6 after 3, and then we were only able to get 1 the last 2 weeks. Against Cincinnati, T.J. Robinson and Ray Thornton actually literally dropped fairly simple interceptions. And against East Carolina, we really didn't have much of a chance to get takeaways. The quarterback played at a very, very high level, obviously. So we got to get more takeaways. The biggest issue to us is the explosive plays. And that's why you asked about consistency. Every game, it's, 50, 60, 70 plays are pretty good snaps. And then there's between 10 and 15, not just explosive plays, but in many cases, catastrophic plays. So, I mean, I wish I could pinpoint just one scenario. I challenged the team this week going up to Cincinnati. They've turned the ball over 8 times in 5 games. So they're not perfect. So there's opportunities for takeaways. We've got to do a great job. We got to minimize and eliminate the explosive plays. And then we got to play better on third down and in the red zone. And if we can do those things, it'll be a heck of a game. We got a good chance.
And then my last one, obviously, I don't know how much you paid attention to Cincinnati specifically last year, how much you're using last year's film in this year's review, but their offense changes a little bit with Desmond Ridder to now Ben Bryant. Bryant's obviously more of a little bit of a pocket quarterback. What have you seen, maybe some changes in their offense from year to year?
Well, I didn't watch a whole lot from last year, but I mean, I know who Desmond Ridder is. I know they had the good running back transfer from Alabama. I know he didn't play against us, but they had a numerous draft picks last year, but they're so well coached. The respect I have for Coach Fickle is off the charts. And then the offensive coordinator from last year went to LSU, so it's a new play caller, albeit someone who is in the system. Coach Gadouli's a good coach and has been around for a long, long time. But, I think Ben Bryant's a very capable quarterback. They average nearly 300 yards a game passing. They have 2 awesome tight ends. I mean, they really do. I mean, 2 pro tight ends, 11 and 81 are really, really good players. Good speed at the wideout and good backs. They really do. And the offensive line works really, really well together. They have all conference players who returned. They're very experienced. I mean, they are the way I described them when I first watched them, they are kind of like a machine. They don't make a lot of mistakes, even though they have fumbled some and turned the ball over. But they run when they want to run. They pass when they want to pass. They're probably passing maybe a little bit better than they did a year ago and running not quite as well. They mix in their personnel groupings. They have a lot of different formations. They run some what I call schemed type runs. It's not like they're, who would I describe? Not just like they're a team that's a zone blocking team. They run gap scheme plays. They have pullers and things like that, counters, powers, things like that. So they do top crack tosses. So we have to prepare for a lot. We have prepared for a lot. We've actually had Tuesday and Wednesday were really good days of practice, and really, really excited for this challenge and looking forward to heading up to Nippert Stadium on Saturday.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Joey Johnson.
Bob, when you look at 3 of your games at BYU, Louisville, and ECU, the stats and the performance in the first half to the second half are really, really different. How do you analyze that? I know, have trouble starting at some of these games. But when you break it down in your mind, what's going on here with the way these games have started?
That's very frustrating. If you look at our keys to victory this week, the first 3 keys are start fast, start faster, start fastest. BYU was a little bit of a fluke in and of itself. They scored on the first play of the game, and I think that was kind of a kick in the midsection. And then they tempoed us a little bit on the second series, and then had a pick 6 against the offense, and it was 21-0, like 8 to 9 minutes of the game. Louisville was a little bit different. It was only 14-0 at the end of the first quarter, but those were 3rd and 4th down plays where a quarterback made a play. I never felt like we weren't in position to stop Cincinnati. We didn't stop them because the quarterback was uniquely awesome. And then even this game, the first touchdown over Mackay was a 3rd down play. We got into 3rd and long and 3rd and medium 6 times in the first handful of series, and just didn't get off the field at times. And then it really became kind of a disaster the last 4 minutes of the half, I'd say. We gave up a touchdown, then they had a long punt return, and then we gave up another touchdown, and that was strange. To the players' credit, and this is a credit to Coach Scott, it's a credit to the culture, and it's a credit to our, I'm not big into moral, to our players specifically. I'm not big into moral victories, but I think other than Louisville, I think in every game we've outscored our opponent in the second half, and there could be a variety of reasons for that. I'm not 100% sure, but the players, even like Florida game, have made good adjustments. They've settled into the speed of the game, and for whatever reason, kind of relaxed, settled in, and played much better in the second half. And maybe we all did it as coaches and players. We certainly can't spot Cincinnati, the points we spotted these other good teams. Other than maybe Howard, I do know this, they're all top 50 offenses in the country. Florida's really turned it on since we played them. BYU is very, very good. Obviously, they only lost to Oregon. Louisville is a very good offense. Gained 500 yards against Florida State. Gained a bunch of yards against BC this week before Cunningham got hurt. So, we've played good offenses. And we played experienced and good quarterbacks. And again, this week's going to be the same thing. That's not an excuse. That's just, that we have to play better, and we have to get off to a better start. And that's certainly on me, whether it's play calling, whether it's, execution, whatever it is. You're 100% correct. We can't spot these teams, significant chunks at the beginning of the game for sure.
And last week's game, and I can't remember the order in which it happened, but your defense went 3 and out, and then the offense drove down and scored a touchdown, and it was like this confidence for the whole team that just suddenly, obviously you'd love to have that at the start of the game. So is it,
the second half,
if you get off to a good start and get that confidence, is that like a spark you guys are looking for right now?
I definitely think that. I think, I don't know, the self-fulfilling prophecy, it's harder than it's ever been to probably be a college athlete with social media and handlers and all the different things, the portal, the NIL, all the different things that are going on. And it's hard it's hard when you're not having the success that you've worked for. And our players have worked very hard in the winter, in the summer, in training camp, and they work hard during the week. And then to not have the success on Saturday that you hope for, we definitely need a spark, whatever that spark might be right there. And Coach did a great job this morning. He showed a video, and it really resonated with me. It was a naval guy, and he was talking about naval training. He was an officer, and he talked about part of the Navy SEAL training is they stick you in the mud, and it's like a 12-hour exercise in the mud. You're the mud all the way up to your head, and it's at night and it's dark and it's overwhelming. I mean, it really is overwhelming. And he told a story about one of the guys started singing, and then you're the B&B rated by the officers, trying to mentally and physically wear you down. One of the guys starts singing, then 3 of the guys start singing, then 7 of the guys start singing, and that's what we need. And Dwayne Boyles has been that spark so far for us. He's been steady Eddie in his preparation and the way he practices, and he's the one who grabs the team when times are down. And now 3 guys are starting to get that spark. Now 7 guys, now 11 guys. Now we just need something positive to happen so we can get out of the mud and play better than what we've played.
Yeah, thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it. We'll get Coach Trickett in here. Thank you. All right, welcome in Coach Trickett. We'll go ahead and get started with Joey. You want to start Coach Trickett off?
Hey, Coach, I wanted to riff on what Coach Shoop was just saying. In the second half of ECU, and I can't remember the order in which it happened, but the defense held ECU to 3 and out, and your offense went down and scored. And the second half got off to a great start, and you could sense the confidence and the spark that was there. I know you'd love to have that to start the game. Is that the kind of thing where if you can get that going, that could be a difference maker for you, if you can start a game like that and get the momentum going your side?
Sure, yeah. I mean, starting the game off last week was frustrating because, you had to drop the first play on a quick game concept, which just trying to get let's get a 2nd and 5 and go. And we dropped it, and we had to drop in the second drive too as well. So those kind of like put you behind. When you got a team like them, ECU's third down defense is good. They're really good, but they're not as good as who we're about to play. These guys are really good. But comparatively at that point in time, their third down defense was one of the top in the conference that we had gone against and seen on film. So you try to stay out of those third longs. So it didn't get started there on the first drive. Second drive, same thing, had a drop. Get another third and long. Both third and longs, though, the good thing, we had somebody that we were going to work to, but again, they hit home with a little bit of pressure, so they kind of got us off the schedule there a little bit. So we didn't get to convert on third down. Third series, we go right down, still first quarter, and we get inside the 2, and we fumble the ball. That's the frustrating part, and so we had like the pieces in place. It's just get going. We got to make sure we throw and catch, we protect, we hit home on the runs that we want to hit. And then when we get inside the 5, you got to not turn the ball over. We got to protect the ball there. Previous play before that, if it's just called a hair sooner, if we get the ball just a little bit sooner, probably scores on that play. So you're not even gonna have to worry about that. But that's football, that's life. And then 4th drive is when we finally go down and score, right, with a Jimmy's explosive play. And then the next drive after that, we were going in route to score, and we had a MA by a couple individuals that negated a play of ours that you're not supposed to do. So long story short, it was all there. We just got to do the little things. We got to throw and catch. We got to execute. We got to protect the ball. And then we're going to get the start that we all want. You know what I mean? That's, I'm sitting there okay, well, how can we start faster? Right. Trust me, I'm the first one that's trying to get that done. And then when you do things and it's still not clicking, you're like, all right, man, we just got to get out of our head and just play ball, and that's one thing that, we started doing in the second half a little bit. But we had opportunities. Those, again, like I said, even with the drop, that doesn't mean you're going to go down and score. But that third series, we got to get the ball in the end zone. We can't fumble at the 2 or the 3, whatever it was. And then that next series, we scored. So that's 14 points right there, and then the series after that, I really do think if we don't MA, we're probably going to get something out of that, either field goal or whatever, because we got the ball in the plus 42, 1st and 10. But we ended that drive at the minus 25. So those are the things that we got to eliminate, and we got to be able to convert. If we do that, everything that we all want is going to happen. So that's what we've been working on this week. Unfortunately, you're playing a team that's extremely disruptive, and they're a different animal than what we've seen. So we got to make sure we put our stuff together and get ready to go out here and play, because it's going to be a fist fight in between the sidelines.
And one more thing, in the second half, it looked like Mikey Dukes had scored. They ended up reversing it, and if that touchdown would have counted, you would have cut it to 13 with 8 minutes to go. Manageable. You pulled back into this game, but on that drive, it took so long to get to that point, and it looked like you were taking a long time on each play to get each play in, and the clock was ticking. I just wonder how you evaluate that, because it seemed like with a little more urgency in that situation, you might have been better off.
Yeah, so that one, they were really dynamic in what they do defensively. And so the whole point of that was we had some things that we thought were going to get the ball into the end zone at that point in time, and they didn't. And the other thing, too, is it's like, all right, we got to play complementary football, and you got to get down and score with 8 minutes left, and then we're probably going to take an onside kick, try to get that bat there, right? But going 4 wide and wide open against them has not been successful, that previous team. So it's more or less, and there was a couple of plays where we had some things dialed up, but we had to get out of it. They gave us some pressure because you couldn't do it then. You know what I mean? So there's a couple of things that were checked with me as well to try to get that ball pushed. And then we had to mix in the run game because half of our explosive plays, those runs all came in the second half, I believe. You know what I mean? And those were the things got Batia out on the perimeter and all that. But yeah, it was a deal where, we felt like number one thing is let's make sure we stay on the field, we get the right play, and we go. You know what I mean? So it was just a matter of 2 field zone about what we wanted. So those couple of look plays that probably slowed it down a little bit than what you probably wanted. But it's also, if they gave us the right look, we probably felt like we got the end zone a hair sooner, if that makes sense. So when you do that and you play a defense, because they're really good defensively, NC State couldn't crap down their leg against them. It was hard for them to do anything offensively against them. And ODU, same thing, was a struggle. We found some rhythm there. So it's like, okay, I thought the recipe was there for us, and we finally started clicking a little bit. We just kind of stayed in rhythm on that. But a little bit was the check with things.
Did you feel it was too early to go like Mayday with Gary, where it's just complete 2-minute offense?
Well, if you do that for them, they'll drive. For us, everything that we got down the field was getting them in and then us going out. Because with their defense, what they were is they can play out max drop space and still rush and pressure. So for us, we had to manipulate them defensively by formation to get into some things where we were able to get the ball out to where we wanted to. That's why a lot of those deep balls were wide open, because we were able to get them in formations where they had to respect this, even at that point in time in the game, because that's why we still ran the ball. Because when those explosive runs were coming, they were trying to just play the pass, and then we hit Batie for 15 and those guys for that, and that's just as good as a pass. So it was a deal where you couldn't go just 2-minute because their 2-minute offense or 2-minute defense has been extremely good, not only this year but last year. And with what they do is when you play a 3-down front team that can bring all these different coverages and all those kind of things, it's tough sledding. So we had a plan to condense it, throw the ball outside, and then when we want to run it, spread it out a little bit, run it, which we did, and then also get some sets and get big and get the ball outside. And it proved for us to move the ball. It's just it wasn't time though at 8 minutes left. If it was like 6-7 minutes, if it was like lower, we would have sped it up. But we felt like we keep going and either try to get an onside kick, get another deal. The frustrating part about it is just having the ball inside the 5 first half, not come away with points and those kind of things. So then you are in a situation, if you just that first drive or that third drive of the game, now you're in a less than 2-score game. You know what I mean? So like I said, we just got to find a way to get in. We got to get the ball inside the 5 in the end zone.
Yeah. And the reversal ended up costing you 2 more minutes. So they'll it would have been a different deal if it would have counted.
Yeah, they were so we have what we wanted. We got to shore up that one cat, the guy that's in between Weave and Holden. They got to double him. We got to kick him out. The tight end's got to take the guy that made the tackle because we got half our hat. But NC State, everybody's had a goal line stand. Like they've stopped everybody on the goal line. NC State got stopped on the goal line, I think twice. 4th down and goal, 4th and short as well. Like they're really good from short yardage. We had opportunities to get in. We got in earlier, and that was frustrating. That one was our opportunity to get in, and like you said, it cost us because outside that we didn't get in, and they did a good job. Like they just kicked our rear end those extra few plays, and so if you play a team like that, you got to get in when you got that opportunity to get in.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach.
Lanny?
I know that injuries had a lot. I don't know if it can. Okay. I know injuries had a lot to do with it, but the scenario of having to go back and look for a new offensive identity, like how Scott said on Saturday after facing ECU, what does that look like for you? And what is the process of trying to find something that's going to click and work for y'all?
Yeah, I mean, like after ECU, we had some injuries, but we were able to move the ball. You know what I mean? And we were able to do a lot of good things as far as like get the ball down the field, which we hadn't been able to do before. We ran the ball well in some games. Some games we haven't run the ball well. And then we were able to throw the ball pretty decently this last game. You got to play with who you have out there. You know what I mean? That's the number one thing. So, you know, Louisville, we're pretty much without our top 4 wideouts. So you got to manufacture whatever you feel like those guys can do against who they're going against. So that's the number one thing we got to do is with the other guys we got out there, we got to do what they do best, you know, and you got to be creative. You know, you've got to get guys at angles and positions and think matchups in their favor because, you know, we're about to play a team this week that's really, really good, really, really good. And so, and we got some guys down up front, guys out wide and in the backfield. So with who we got lined up with, though, like you say, like nobody cares. You just got to line up and go. So we got to make sure we put those guys in position to be successful and give them at bats. You know, that's the number one thing we got to do is what can they do best that we know they can do, and then go out there and let them play.
And then my final question for you is, what is one of the main things that you're looking at when it comes to Cincinnati and what you guys are working on to overcome them?
They are, in my opinion, better than what they were last year on defense. I watched all the games from last year. I watched all the games this year. Really good defensively up front. Their linebacker pace, Zero, is dynamic. He changes them because when he wants to rush, he can play the run and the pass really well as far as rushing. And you know, back end secondary wise, like they lost Sauce, but they've got really good players in the back end. They're very long and fast at corner and safety. Outside of 10 threats, he's a physical kid that plays. They do a good job of they're able to get pressure with just rushing 3 guys. Like they, you know, Indiana, Arkansas, who's a really big team, SEC big team. They were able to kind of mash them a little bit, but still it was tough sledding. But they were able to hit home on just some 3-man pressures, 4-man pressures, bringing them one. And so if you can do that, and the back end allows you to do a lot. So they can play man and keep up with you. So if they, you know, that's the tough part about it. Like it's a schematic deal where you think you should have these things, but then people wise, they're really, really good. So we got to account for that. So we got to be creative in like how we get our angles, how we get our numbers, and how we get our run game, and how we get guys open. And that's the big challenge for us this week because they'll just play man and they say you got to beat us, and then they also you can beat them, but when you play man, you're like, oh, there's big plays. Well, they got a safety 20 yards deep, and then they got a couple of guys just hanging out, waiting for you to throw the ball on the in cuts. So it's a good scheme, you know what I mean? But if they didn't have the talent that they had, it'd be hard to run this scheme. They'd have to probably get a little bit more pressure. But I think they've recruited really well, coached really well, developed really well to get to this point where they can run this scheme and feel confident that they can stop and the run and stop the pass by doing what they're doing. And again, hats off to them. It's a really, really good defense. So it's a great challenge for us.
Awesome. Thank you. That's it for me.
Sure.
Will, go ahead, Will.
Morning, Coach. Coach Scott said, to continue on Cincinnati, essentially that you could blur out the names and the numbers, but it still looks like the same defense from last season with a lot of the guys that they have and kind of the athleticism. Have you seen, a team that has lost that many folks on defense from year to year to the draft and still be as productive as they've been, as they've managed to be this season?
Probably in Tuscaloosa and Athens, maybe those 2 teams. But that's what's impressive because you're like, oh, good. You see, like, I remember when I took they lost all these guys. And then when you watch these games, man, they've done a great job with just recruiting. I mean, a lot of these guys aren't like 4-star, 5-star recruits. They've recruited length and size and speed and defensive line wise. They are very active. They're very disruptive. Number 1 team in the country in sacks, I think it is. They get to the quarterback. There's a lot of looks for the quarterbacks getting hit before he throws, after he throws, and they do it where they're not like bringing house pressure. They're rushing 3 guys, or they're rushing 4 guys. They're rushing 3 D linemen and a backer. And so their acquisitions, I know Pace was a big get for them. Like he's been very, 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 he's very good. Him and his brother are good players. And then they're able to play man. And when you play man, you can't win. And you can't, and like I said, that gives you opportunities. But what they do schematically, when you just rush 3, that's an extra guy. So they got that guy just kind of hanging based on your formation, where you might want to throw this, but then if he's there, it's going the other way. So it's a good job by them schematically. Coach Fickle's done a great job. I keep saying that. It's really, I mean, it's good stuff. Like when I turn on the Alabama game, and they're having to chip away. Alabama is, now what their saving grace was that they were much bigger than them up front, and Alabama was able to run the ball some, not great. But these guys, I think they're giving up 100 yards rushing a game right now, and the average is very good. So we've got to be creative. That's at the end of the day. Like we've got to find angles and numbers, and we got to find ways to get guys open and get completions and push the ball downfield when we need to, and threaten them downfield and try to get them out of the man coverage and do those things. So big challenge for us this week. Like I said, every week there's a challenge, but this next one up.
And then, in the passing game last week against East Carolina was easily the most productive, at least with yardage, set a season high yardage. Gary had, finally got on the board with 3 passing touchdowns. Just, how did you kind of evaluate, especially with Jimmy Horn, having a career day in his own right? Just how do you evaluate how that passing game was on Saturday?
It was good to have Jimmy and we were out there. That's the number one thing. Louisville, we were out 4 guys in that room. We and Jimmy weren't really available that game. So when you have them, you got a chance to do some good things. And like I said, we had them earlier in the season, and like I said, they got touches and all that. But when that's just a glimpse of what we can be and what we can do. There's still some other opportunities out there for us still, that we didn't take advantage of. But number one thing is, it was a very complimentary game. I threw for 250, ran for 200 or whatever it was. We just got to score inside the 5. That's it. Like when you get the ball, 3rd drive, you're inside the 2. We got to hold on the ball. We had a good play. They brought edge pressure, had a hat for him, but our newbie right tackle just didn't see him at the last second. Where an experienced guy probably would have saw him. It's still fine. We still got to hold on the ball. We got to gain a 4. But we fumbled the ball at the 3, and that's points. At the end of the day, that's points, and that's what it comes down to. Is we got to score there, and then that second touchdown, or the touchdown at the end that got called back. We got what we want. We just got to secure that guy. We got 2 guys there. He splits 2 dudes. We just got to secure them, and tight end's got to get the kick, and we'll walk in. But he splits us. Tight end doesn't really get a kick, and then it makes the contested touchdown, which got called back, which rightfully so, it wasn't in yet. And then, they did what they did best is they were really good on the short yardage goal line. ECU, they stopped NC State multiple times, and everybody else said, they couldn't get in. Like if you look at previous years, it was tough sledding down there. And we were able to get in earlier in the drive, so we felt good about what we were doing. But they showed up there. They bowed up, they bowed their back, and when we try to run Gary there on an inside play, they took out our pullers and they bounced the play. And by their penetration, they took out 2 dudes that were wrapping around. And that's why the play went outside, not inside. Right. So, again, hats off to them. They did a great job. We got to make – when you play teams like that, and teams are bowl teams are going to play 7, 8 win, 9 win teams, you got to make your at-bats count when it's time. Like you're not going to get a whole lot of at-bats. So, again, like I said, that's where we got to make sure we're better at. Like I said, the pass game, like – we were able to get in the end zone there, but to me, each week we've had opportunities. That was just ones that we've connected on. So we just got to keep building off that and roll. But again, like I said, this week, these cats, they challenge us. So we got a big challenge in front of us, especially when they play straight up man. So got to go out there winning mano a mano.
Thanks, Coach.
Joey Johnson.
Yeah, one more, Coach. I forgot, and you alluded to it a little bit. I wanted to ask you about Jimmy Horn. Obviously, we saw what kind of impact he can make on the offense. And he hadn't played a lot of games here. He's already scored in plays of 91, 89, 80 yards. The talent is obvious. As an offensive coordinator, is this like a shiny new toy you've got when you have him? Just the sky's the limit. Where can this guy go?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like he's got a ton of upside. That's the one thing where if he can just continue to to become a complete receiver like he's working on, and just understand route plans and understand those things, then he's going to be really, really good. Right now, he's starting to get there, and he's working really hard at it. But yeah, when you have those guys available, yeah, it's great. I mean, you can, like, those the kind of things can happen, and we try to get them to some of those instances in the Howard game. We didn't connect on a couple of them downfield. One I think was going to really be there, but we had a pressure, one of the few pressures we had all year. But then he's out the next game. Then once he's out, then it's just hard to get. When you don't have him, it stinks, quite frankly, because he's so good. Him and Weave, those are two guys that can change it. And the guy that I thought was coming along that had a chance to change us too was Joe. Like, I thought he was going to be different. And so, again, he hasn't been available yet either. So when you have pieces like that out, like I remember I was reading an article, like Tennessee was about to play Florida. It's like after our Florida game. And Tennessee was about to play Florida. And then I think it came out like their leading receiver was out before the game. Like, he's out. This is going to be a huge blow. I'm sitting there like, just one guy? That's it? Just one? That's nothing. You know what I mean? Because our guys have, like, it's the next man up mentality. And that's just what's frustrating is if we had a full boat, it'd be really, really fun to see what we can do. You know what I mean? But you got what you got. And so we got to make sure that when those guys are healthy and they can play, we got to keep them healthy, by the grace of the good Lord, hopefully. And then, like I said, put them in positions where they go do what he did. You know what I mean? So that's the challenge, especially this week. So we got to continue to build on that.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us.